Let's look at question 1. 1.1, it says 1.1.3. 1.1 itself says solve for x. So let's look at 1.1.1. Okay, what you have to understand here is that you have to find or solve for x. So in these two brackets, do not multiply. Students normally make a mistake of multiplying throughout here. Do not multiply. You are solving for x. So it's either this bracket is equal to that which is on the other side of the equal sign, or this bracket is equal to that which is on the other side of the equal sign, which is this first bracket is equal to whatever was there, or this second bracket is equal to exactly what was there. Then you want to solve for x, so you want to make x the subject of this formula or this equation. You add 1 both sides. Why do you add 1? Because you want to remove the minus 1, which means that 0 plus 1 is equal to 1. Or you want to minus 5 both sides. Why do you want to minus 5 both sides? Because you want to remove the plus 5. 0 minus 5 is equal to minus 5. You want to solve for x, and 2 is multiplying x, so you're going to divide both sides by what is multiplying x. 2 divided by 2, 1. 1 times x, x. This equal sign 1 over 2, or 0.5, or x is equal to minus 5. You have solved that part of this question. Then I'm gonna wipe this out whilst the video is still going. So I'm gonna record the entire question 1, then I stop, then I record the entire question 2. All my questions I'll complete them like that. Okay, now let's go to 1.1.2. It says 2x squared minus 4x plus 1 is equal to 0. Leave your answer in its simplest form, or in a simplest sub form. So what does this mean? It means that you have to solve for x as requested above here. You would see that if you try to find factors of this number such that you get an answer which is the middle term, there's no way. You can try 2x times x. So you can try, I'm just going to explore it for the sake of doing it. 2x times x. These are the factors of this number, and then the factors of this number are 1 and 1. You can try minus 1 and minus 1 and minus 2 and minus 2. Still, when you multiply these two numbers, 2 times 1, 2x times 1 is 2x. 1 times 1, x times 1 is 1x. This goes up to 3x. It does not go to minus 4x. So the normal factorization will not work here. Then which means that if you cannot find factors of x, you go quadratic. Now I'm not going to bore you with the quadratic equation. Consult your book if you're not familiar or you're not comfortable with the quadratic equation. And then you would understand why my next solution will be x is equal to minus 4, which is b, plus minus square root of b squared. B is minus 4 squared minus 4 times a times c. That's what the quadratic says. This whole thing must be divided by 2 times a. In this case, a is 2. So quadratic equation is what I've done. This whole thing must be equal to negative times negative, positive. So you have a 4 here. There's 4 plus minus this sign. Everything which is inside that root sign, you will see that the whole thing would be, and again I would like to display with my calculator how these things work. So you know that the root sign stays, you don't apply the root sign, you want to solve what's inside the root sign. You would use your calculator. Any scientific calculator will give you this if you want to prove it, but I know that this is 16. So 4, maybe one would argue, why don't I put brackets? So 4 open bracket, negative 4 close bracket, squared. I want that answer is 16, right? So this gives me what? This gives me 16. That's 16 minus 4. This 4, open bracket 2, close bracket, open bracket 1, close bracket. This whole thing is equal to 8. So 16 minus 8 is equal to the square root of 8. You get what I'm saying now? Now, once we have that, it's all over 4. 2 times 2 is 4. Then you can therefore solve your question further by knowing that you can simplify 8 because of we've got a root sign here, ladies and gentlemen. So x will either be 4 plus or minus a root of 4 times 2 all over 4. Why did I say 4 times 2? Because I know that I can find the square root of 4, which is equal to 2. So x is either 4 plus square root of 4 is 2. So that 2 must stay here, outside here. Then this root 2 is left here. How did I do that? Square root of 4 is 2. Then the square root, because both 4 and 2 were inside the square root, so the 4 gave me the answer of root 2. I mean the root 4 gave me the answer of positive 2. Then with that, this did not change, so it stayed here. Then I divided by 4. Now when you've got this answer, you can find your answer here. You can find your answer easily from your calculator. You can have 2 ways of finding x. X can either be equal to, they said solve for x, so let's solve x. X can either be 4, let's take the plus sign, 2 root of 2. Let me get that numerator answer first. This divided by 4. That's my first answer. 2 plus root of 2 over 2, which is equal to, wanna write it to, let's write it to 3 decimal places, 1.707. Or we do the same thing, but we're changing the sign to be minus now. 4 minus 2 root sign 2 equal numerator divided by the denominator of 4. So my answer can also be, let me give you this format first, 2 minus root of 2 over 2, which is equal to, change, 0.293, because I said a round off to 3 decimal places. That's the solution for 1.2. Again, in between, you can take a time and your time and pause the video. You can take a time and pause the video whilst I am actually wiping out, and I'll only close this complete video once I have completed the solutions for question 1. Okay, welcome back. Again, just remember that whilst I'm wiping the board clean, you have the choice of pausing and discussing the previous question that I've done. Now let's do 1.2. So what does 1.2 say? Simplify without use of a calculator the following expressions fully. For 2 marks, simplify 1.2.1, simplify 125 to the power 2 over 3. That's the exponent. Let me try to write it clearly. For you. So the instruction says simplify 125 to the power of 2 over 3. Okay, simplify that fully without use of calculator. Then let's understand one thing. You can write 125 as a base of 5. So let's write 125 itself as a base of 5, which is 5 to the power 3. We just wrote 125 now. The next thing you do, write whatever the exponent was. So your exponent was 2 over 3. Let's continue. So what we have done now, we have just simplified 125. The next step, you have a choice of multiplying this with that, and remember that this 3 also has a denominator of 1, so the exponents can multiply each other. 3 times 2 is 6, so it's 5 to the power of 6 over the 3 here, which will then make sense when I say 6 over 3 is equal to 2, so this is 5 to the power 2. Ultimately, your final answer is equal to 5 to the power of 2 is 25. That's the answer of this question, fully simplified. Then the next question, simplify, open bracket, 3 root of 2 minus 12, close bracket, 2 root of 2 plus 1, close bracket. Now what we're doing here, we're multiplying 2 brackets. When you multiply these 2 brackets, each term must multiply each other. It's like when you have a binomial of terms multiplying each other. Binomial multiplying by a binomial. That's what you're kind of looking at. So we can start by saying this times this, 6. 3 times 2 is 6. Then what do you do next? Then you proceed by multiplying. You're multiplying here, ladies and gentlemen, a root 2 times a root 2. The roots will cancel each other. The square roots will cancel each other, which then makes you to be left with 2. So dot 2, which means times. This means times 2. So what do you multiply then? Here we've just multiplied values first of this single term, and then we multiply the roots of that simple of that same single term. So that was one term but split into a root and just a whole number. Then we come here, then we come to negative 3 times 1, positive 3 times 1. Positive 3 times 1 is positive 3. Then we move on. This positive 3 goes with what? Goes with its root 2. Don't forget that. So 3 root 2 times 1 is 3 root 2. Let me explain it that way. Minus, we're multiplying a negative 12 times 2 root 2. We're multiplying 12 times 2 root 2, which means, see, whole numbers can multiply each other. 12 times 2, it's 24. Root of 2. This root of 2. Then negative 12 times positive 1, negative 12. What I would suggest here is that you can, if you want, you can collect your whole numbers or your like terms or whatever you call it. But it is clear, it is very much clear that if you look at this, these two numbers, they can actually cancel each other out, or they can be regarded as like terms, if one would call it that way. For that fact, them being like terms, we can then start saying these two numbers, they give us what? They give us 20. They give us 21. So let's just focus on these two numbers. So this is minus 21 root of 2. Just these two numbers. These two. I've just merged these two numbers, these. Because people, I don't want them to be confused that this plus 3 is separate. This plus 3 goes with the root 2. So that's why I started with this middle term. Then I come back to this one. 6 times 2, 12. Positive 12. We have a negative 12 on that side. So it's clear that a positive 12 minus a 12 gives us a 0. They don't cancel, they actually eliminate each other. So your final answer here becomes what? Your final answer becomes minus 21 root of 2. We have all done that without aid of a calculator. Once again, this time you can pause and discuss the solutions whilst I'm just cleaning the board for you. Okay, welcome back. Now we're looking at 1.3. Given x squared minus x minus 6 all over 3x minus 9. Answer these following questions quickly. The first question: for which values of x will the expression be undefined? Now, I need to explain the concept of a function being undefined. This function, or this expression in this case, will be undefined when a certain value makes the denominator to be 0. You've got the numerator, you've got the denominator. This expression will be undefined when the denominator is equal to 0. So what does that mean now in practical terms? If you have an expression or an equation or anything, let's call it a thing. If you have anything which is divided by 0, that is undefined. You cannot divide something with nothing. That means it's nothing, it doesn't exist. It's against the laws. It's just null. It doesn't exist. So I think I've emphasized that fact that we would then need to make this denominator 0. What number will make this denominator 0? Just adjust this such that it cancels with this. So we need to make this term to be equal to that term with an opposite sign. The sign of this term, which is 9, is negative. So we need to get this to be positive 9. How do we do that as a positive 9? What number will affect 3 to make it 9? Through multiplication. 3 times 3. So x must be equal to 3. 3 times 3, 9. So 9 minus 9, 0. Once we get a 0 here as a denominator, which means that this expression is undefined, thus making it x squared minus, I'm just putting what I just explained now, minus 6 all over 3 times x, which is in this case 3, minus 9, will then give us, there was no equal sign, don't put an equal sign, will then give us x squared minus x minus 6. You can if you want substitute that same x value as on the numerator. that doesn't serve any purpose, and this is just for 2 marks, so don't waste your life with that. Divide. 3 times 3, 9. 9 minus 9, 0. This whole thing collapses and becomes 0. When is this undefined? When this denominator is equal to 0. Answering this question, when x is equal to 3, positive 3, that's very important. When x is equal to 3, positive 3. I think I must just emphasize it by putting the plus sign, even though when we write a 3 without a sign is indeed positive, but I just want to emphasize that effect. So let's go to 1.3.2. 1.3.2, what does it say? It says now, simplify the expression fully. Simplify this expression fully. So what does it mean? It means the following, ladies and gentlemen. Here in this particular type of problem, what you must drive for, or what you must drive towards, is the following hint I will give you. Make it such that your numerator is identical to what is on the denominator. So try to make a numerator to cancel out with the denominator. We see that this one, we can try to factorize it. We can factorize this. So what are the factors that we can use here? The factors of 6 will be 3 and 2, which will solve us out here. So let's rewrite this numerator simplified. So we're looking at an x squared. Actually, we're looking at 2 brackets. I'm already simplifying it now for you. So we're looking at 2 brackets now. A bracket of x. That x must be minus 3. I'm just doing the factors now in my head. And then another x, because of the signs are different. So, I mean the signs are identical for the middle term. Maybe I must just bore you to do this. So you're looking at the factors of what? The factors of 6. So the factors of this are x and x. The factors of that one are 3 and 2. Factors of the last term. You must cross multiply and subtract such that you get the middle term. I repeat, cross multiply such that you take the difference of the cross multiplied version, you get the middle term. So which means that you need this to be negative. And you need the factors of what? You need the factors of a negative. You need the factors of a negative middle term. So how would you do that? Make this a negative. Okay? Once you make that a negative, which means that this times this, what does it give you? X times 2 gives you 2x, positive. X times negative 3 gives you negative 3x. Take the difference, sign of a bigger number, minus. Difference between 2 and 3 is 1. So we get an x. Is your middle term this value? Yes. Since your middle term is this value, these are your factors. So you get what? You get plus 2 close bracket. All over. This one, again, take out the common factor. The common factor is 3, yeah? So 3 is common. Take it out. What are you left with? You're left with x minus 3. 3 times 3 is 9. So 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 3 is negative 9. Did you manage to get denominators which are identical? Yes. Because of that, you are one step close to your solution. Now, I just want to remove this part where I did your factors, because when I was explaining it, I put myself in a position as a student and I felt like I was not getting it. So I had to demonstrate it for those people who were struggling to get it. Pardon me. So once you have done this, once you've simplified the denominators, once you simplify the denominator such that it gives you the numerator, you then know that this divided by this gives me 1. So there's a 1 here as an answer, which serves no purpose, because you're going to multiply with that bracket, you're going to get the same bracket. As much as you have a 1 here, which serves no purpose, because when you multiply a 3 and a 1, it changes nothing. Which then, I would wish you to allow me then to write this on its fully formalized manner. Write this in its fully formalized manner, which gives you, open bracket, x plus 2 close bracket all over 3, sorry, all over 3. So your answer is x plus 2 over 3. You don't need to go further than this. There's no need. This is your answer. Okay, I'm gonna then pause the video because that's the end of question 1, and then in the next following video I'll be posting question 2, solving it throughout like I did with question 1. So thanks for staying tuned, and remember, follow us on YouTube on the same channel, as well as you can find our posts and interact with us on Spot On Tutors on our Facebook page, as well as on our email. Email is the same name as this one, spotontutors, one word, of course lowercase, @gmail.com. So this is where you can find us. You can find us at, let me just put it here for you. Remember, that's where you find us, spotontutors @gmail.com. remember that, @gmail.com, spotontutors. That's where you can find us.